Welcome back to Morning Express. It's now 2 minutes after 8, and just before we took the break, we were discussing matters politics on Political Point. And of course, top of the agenda is the IEBC, who are currently on a retreat in Naivasha. And well, the question is, will they be ready? Just before we took the break, Dr. Mukwana, you're explaining and you say that both political major stakeholders, here being Jubilee and NASA, are not being honest. You explained that the Deputy President in his submission was basically trashing the fact that some of the questions that he was asked. But maybe you can continue that train of thought before I come to Kipchumba.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. You see, as I've always said, in this country, the biggest tragedy, and with all due respect to our leaders, the biggest tragedy that we have in such situations is our politicians. Because they take positions that just polarize the country, and they gloss over the facts. And so I was saying, if you look at the statements by the Deputy President, and not just the Deputy President, but the Jubilee people, they are glossing over the 12 critical issues that were raised by the Chebukati memo. Yet those are very, very critical issues pertaining to this election.
Absolutely.
But they are just glossing over it. Now, come to the side of NASA. When the annulment of the election was done, the first reaction that came from the opposition was that there will be no election with the IEBC as currently constituted. That sent the country into a spin, because we all know that you cannot have the commissioners being removed within the 6 days that is left. And if you realize, the Jubilee side took and ran with that one and dug in. And for quite some time, the country was just spinning around that.
Right.
After Chebukati issued his statement, appearing to indict some members within his commission, then he came up with a committee that will oversee, and then came the memo. NASA again hatched on that and said, we have identified Torre, Muhati, and so forth. At that time, Jubilee again on the other side said, oh, you have inside information. Why are you going for Chiloba? It now has made the whole thing to be so messy, because it is now appearing that NASA are supporting Chebukati, and Jubilee is supporting Chiloba. So at the end of the day, it is a commission that is now clearly not being seen as impartial. It is a commission that people are saying it should redeem itself. But it can't, because its feet appear to be tied and they're being pulled remotely by different political
All right, Dr. Mukwana, can you be the voice of reason? Because evidently, if we listen to our politicians, they do have an ulterior motive. And at the end of the day, they're all in it to win.
Correct.
By hook or by crook, it seems, whether it's going to be by giving us the truth or by twisting facts, they will do that. What is the voice of reason now, looking at the IEBC as it's currently constituted, and also reflecting with a mirror on the law and what the law requires of IEBC?
Thank you. Michael, I've always said, we need to be honest with each other here. Independence of IEBC is legal, it is on paper. But we live in this country. We know that those IEBC commissioners were appointed courtesy to some political forces. Either Jubilee, there are those that were recommendation of Jubilee and those that were recommendation of NASA.
Absolutely.
So whatever we say in public, let's be honest with ourselves, that it will take the IEBC involving both their sponsors, for lack of a better word. Consultation, consultation, consultation. The IEBC Act allows the consultation of stakeholders. And there is no other level of redemption that IEBC will do for itself. Let's not cheat ourselves. The Jubilee side has said Chiloba will not go. And with Chiloba are the other guys. Remember in Naivasha, when they emerged, never mind Chebukati's body language, which seemed very unsure. You could see he seemed unsure of what he's telling the public. But they are now saying Chiloba will preside over the team which NASA was celebrating. That, okay, that is the one, then yes. But now they are saying Chiloba will preside it. So we are going back to where we were. We must have the president and his team. And we must have Raila and his team coming down and agreeing on the bare minimum changes that must be made before October 17th. There is no other way out. Because even that poor Chebukati you're bashing, we know that he cannot move on his own. Whichever direction he goes, he's a cornered man. He does one thing, you believe his neck. Does another, NASA is on his neck. So for me, Michael, and I've said it again, let Honorable Raila and Honorable Uhuru abandon their high pedestal. It's not helping the country. The economy is bleeding. People are tense. People are suffering. Let them come together. It happened in 1997 with the IPPG. And let's not be deceived, Michael. These gentlemen up there, they are not as enemies as we perceive them to be with people down here. Let them come together and agree on the bare minimum. Let Jubilee not cheat the country. That those 12 points that were raised by Chebukati are for the birds. That's being dishonest. And let NASA also not cheat the country that they will not go to the election unless everything they want is done. It is not being honest. Happen. It's not going to happen.
All right, let me come to you, Oliver. There must be some bare minimums that IEBC needs to ensure are in place and meet the threshold for this election to be successful on the 17th. Otherwise, we are going to be back to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Which is again, within the Constitution. And whichever party loses has the right to do that. But what are some of the bare minimums that IEBC needs to make sure that they meet?
Michael, the first point we must take home and get is clear that, one, we have been attacking personalities for quite too long. We need to start attacking issues. And one of the issues we need to start attacking is, one, is IEBC independent in itself as constituted? The other point is IEBC must disfranchise itself from being entangled in political, being caught in a political web.
It cannot.
The electioneering process is a convergence of two things. Is a convergence of the law and the politics.
But you do realize IEBC is also a very political body.
It is.
And as a result, it's very difficult for them to exclude themselves from the politics of the day, which is why consultation now becomes a major issue.
Yes, IEBC is a political body, loosely stated, but it must be seen to be independent. They must be beyond reproach. How will a poor Kenyan somewhere give or trust IEBC with its vote if IEBC will seem to be leaning towards one side? That's why this process, we have been here before. We had Kivuitu, we had Isakasan. Because of a simple thing, these people reach somewhere, they lose the track. And I'm saying the number of the days between today and the election, we have very few. The time is very limited. A lot has to be done. And you have to know that the Supreme Court was very clear that the election must be beyond what the law says. Therefore, the thing that should be done at this juncture is one, IEBC must get its acts together. Two, the questions raised in the memo must be answered for us to have confidence in going back to the election. The other point is that election is not about NASA and Jubilee. Election is about the people. Election belongs to the people. Anytime we take it away from the people, we lose the discussion.
Okay. And I know that one might argue and say it is about the people, but it is driven by some political parties, especially those ones. But let me look at this and say, after a tumultuous post-election review, IEBC now says that the commissioners and the secretariat, the electoral body, now says that they're reading from the same page and are now focused on delivering the October 17th presidential rerun. This assurance was given by IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati after a day-long meeting in Naivasha yesterday. Let's listen into what he had to say.
6 commissioners and myself are here, plus the CEO. We've been together in one room the whole day. If we didn't like each other, I'm sure somebody would have walked away. But we have committed to what we came to do in the office. We took an oath to serve Kenyans without fear or favor and in compliance with the constitution of the land and the laws of the land. And our allegiance is the people of Kenya. And that's why we are standing here to tell Kenyans that we are going to work together as one. As regards the memo, it's not the first time a confidential document has leaked from an organization. It's unfortunate that that went out. The memo was marked confidential. In terms of the organization structure, the commission makes policy and communicates to the secretariat to implement. So ours is those responsibilities we push the secretariat. But at the end of the day, We, of course, have said that the Secretariat has given the answers. We are going to sit together as a commission and review them, and we shall share.
All right, so let me start with you, Dr. Mukhwana, and there we have the chair, Wafula Chebukati, coming out to say that we are a united front, and that's a good start. It's a breath of fresh air if IEBC is united. But does that necessarily mean that they've thrashed out the 12 points that the memo brought out?
They're not telling us, Michael. They're not telling us. And that's why I told you, if you look at, with due respect to you, Chebukati, if you look at his body language, it's not convincing. He says, we sat in the same room the whole day. If we didn't like each other, we would have walked out. I mean...
How does that place us in any better position than we were yesterday?
Thank you. What he ought to have done and he has to be fair to this country, he has not disowned that memo. So the other side of the political divide, which has been saying that that memo means nothing, they must now understand that
the memo was issued.
The memo was issued. So what Chebukati should have told the country when they emerged from the meeting, they have said, the memo that I issued, we have a response. He murmured something towards the end to that effect, but he didn't divulge to the public what the response was. He says the memo was leaked. Bad enough for them, but he says it was his memo.
And the truth of the matter is it was leaked and now we have it. It is in existence.
Precisely.
Yes.
So could he also help us leak the response so that then the public can have a chance to look at the response from Chebukati? Because remember, it is that memo which has made the positions even to be more extreme. So he has not helped us there. Number two, Michael, remember that he has said something about the operations. It is true that Chebukati and his commissioners are only at the strategic and policy formulation level. The guys who do the day-to-day work, including even the committee that he said he had formed, it is not his work. He can recommend, but it's Chiloba to do it. So here we have a situation where at the time when he said this, when he issued that first press statement, and when he issued this memo, that was his gut. What is happening now is after a lot that has happened after
And it
that.
sounds like it's more of public relations.
It is a PR, Michael. It is a PR,
so we
Michael.
don't know whether the issues have been sorted out.
Precisely.
Kipchumba, Oliver, your feeling on Chebukati's statement and whether that necessarily leaves Kenyans satisfied that they can actually deliver. I mean, the fact that they've come out of one room without fighting is good, but does that necessarily give us credible elections come the 17th?
Mike, I think the first thing, Chebukati at times leaves Kenyans more confused than we were. From his body language, you could read a lot of things. And it doesn't help the public to say we were in a room and we could not fight. It is neither here nor there. As a commission, they are deemed to be one. And I think one thing that we must applaud Isaac Hassan and his team was the unity they maintained. The unity for purpose and everything. They did something beyond. We might have... they might have left office with a lot of controversy, but they did, as a team, they stood together. And another thing which Chebukati must be reminded is that the entire country is watching. And as a country, the Elections Act is very clear on electoral offences. It is not, we will not be reacting to the memo. There are other questions which must be asked and must get answers. Yes, the memo was leaked. That is on their part. But tomorrow or in the near future, we will need answers on what went wrong and why we had to go back to an entire election, not because Kenyans did not vote or there were issues in the voting process, but because IEBC could not handle the votes after the transmission and the other processes after the voting. Therefore, Chebukati must come clear and put confidence in Kenyans so that we do not have voter apathy due to lack of confidence in the electoral system.
All right. We need to wind up because of time. Dr. Mukhwana, IEBC are still in Naivasha. What is it that we should expect from them that would give us confidence and boost our confidence in them being prepared to give us a credible election come the 17th of October?
Michael, I'm not so sure what to expect from Chebukati's team now. I'm not so sure. But this is what I would have wanted that will come out of it. Number one, I would want them to come out with a better message that, yes, we are one. But that is not enough. That the issues that have divided us were A, B, C, D. And we have addressed them this way. And from there, they proceed then to meet the two stakeholders and say, look, Jubilee, these were your issues. NASA, these were your issues. We have addressed them this way. That way, they narrow the gap of the extreme positions that have been propagated by the both sides. Anything short of that, Michael, I do not see how you're going to handle this. Because the truth of the matter is that if NASA insists that Chiloba and his team must go, Jubilee will insist, and they're already saying, that now Chebukati is a NASA man. He too must go. So there is a stalemate on the way. And the only way that this is going to be resolved, as I've said, the two principles that Honorable Kenyatta and Raila Odinga must put the country above everything else. Just like it happened in 2007, when Mwai Kibaki was feuding with Raila, and the country was burning, and Raila's people were telling him, let's secede. Let them rule themselves, we rule ourselves. Raila rose above every partisan interest and alone flew to Sagana State Lodge together with Mwai Kibaki. And they agreed that, look, this country belongs to all of us, let us share this. This was the path of the now much ridiculed Nusumkate. But it worked and helped calm the country.
And is that an option, maybe given where we are today, is that an option that you foresee? And you know there's been a narrative by Jubilee that NASA's intention has always been Serikali and Nusumkate.
Yeah, you see, again, that's not a very fair from Jubilee, because those people are saying Nusumkate do not appreciate the circumstances under which the Nusumkate came. Indeed, the deputy president at that time was on the other side that was given Nusumkate. So this whole ridicule about Nusumkate is unfortunate, because that Nusumkate, by whatever description, is what brought calm in this country. If you have lived in this country, Michael, you know, and if you're here in 2007, you will not even say that it was a wrong decision.
Not that being a wrong decision, but do you think that's an option for this time round?
By the way, the reason why Jubilee has been saying that these guys want Nusumkate is to forestall that. Because where we are headed is going to be a stalemate. Just imagine, if the bare minimum amendments are not made to rectify the mess that happened at IEBC, Raila Odinga is not going to go to this election. Jubilee has said the Constitution doesn't force him to. That is easier said than done. Jubilee needs NASA to participate in this election to give legitimacy to their elections. Right, they will not do without NASA. They're just playing to the gallery.
We need to wind up. Oliver, your thoughts on what you'd expect from IEBC as they come from Naivasha. What is it that is bare minimum that would give us confidence as a country that we're going to have credible election?
To the IEBC, I think the point is clear. One, we need them to work and raise their confidence levels. As we speak, they are very low. Two, they must work out and make sure that at the end of the day, we are speaking about the will of the people. Whatever they do, the will of the people must manifest itself and must truly manifest itself on the 17th. The other point is, one, the politicians now must also stop taking us back and forth. Today, they talk about reforms in the IEBC. Tomorrow, they talk about secessions. You know, now they confuse Kenyans. You cannot talk about three things at the same time. We must go topic by topic so that we can know what we are addressing. We cannot, in one session, we are talking about the elections being free and fair. We are still pursuing that. At some point, we talk about seceding. Then why do we go to elections? Elections is about numbers, and democracy, it's about numbers. The winners having their way, and the losers having their say.
Their say. I think that's the best point to wind it up at. And thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. We have Dr. Lutalala Mufwana, who is a lawyer, but also well-versed in matters politics, and Oliver Kipchumba, who is also an advocate and also very well-versed in matters politics.